Bonjour, y'all. I'm Paula Deen, and today I'm making some of my favorite French food. When Michael and I took our very first trip to Paris a little while ago, we just could not believe how good the food was. So I'm gonna duplicate some of these dishes, and first of all, I'm gonna make a croque madame, which is like our grilled ham and cheese sandwich, only it's got a twist. And then a cheesy and savory French onion soup that's gonna satisfy every soup lover around. And for dessert, chocolate banana crepes that's gonna melt in your mouth. So y'all run, grab your passport and pack your appetite, because we're having fabulous French fare. Hey y'all, you've caught me standing up here in my kitchen reminiscing about a very special time that's going to be with me the rest of my life, in my heart and in my memory. And that's the opportunity that Michael and I had to go to Paris. You know, you've always heard, or I've always heard, Paris is for lovers, and I think that is so true. So I thought, what better time than to try to reproduce some of the things that Michael and I had while we were there. So the first thing that we're going to make today is so super simple, and it's like our grilled ham and cheese sandwich, and this is called croque madame. I'm just going to give this a light spray. I'm taking a regular sourdough bread. We're just going to butter it. So I'm going to start by putting that down. So I'm going to do, I think, like 2 sandwiches I'll be able to fit on here. So on our bread, I'm going to add some cheese. And you can use a Gruyere, you can use Swiss, any kind of cheese that you want. Because basically, you know, they had all these fancy names for this, but it's really kind of ham and cheese sandwich. All right, now to this, I'm going to add the ham. And these sandwiches really are a male and female sandwich. And I'll be showing you what I mean by that as we go along. I get teased a lot, y'all, because I refer to my food as he's and she's. Well, you know what? I found out in Paris they do the same thing. People write me all the time and say, well, Paula, why do you call that a him? And why do you call that a her? Well, this sandwich that I'm making right now has a female and male version. Now, this version, at this stage of the sandwich, would be a male. It would be a croque monsieur. But when I get finished with it, it's going to be a croque madame. And do you know what makes it a female? I'm going to put an egg on top of it, and the egg kind of looks like a breast. So that's why the French call the sandwich with an egg madame. And now I'm going to slather this top with a homemade mayonnaise. All right, now I'm going to top this mayonnaise with some more cheese. And then I'm going to run this sandwich under the broiler and melt the cheese on top of it. So I'm going to run this under the broiler. And we're just going to broil that for a minute. All right, so I'm going to leave my door open on my oven because I don't want it to get too hot and burn on me. And my pan's ready, so I'm just going to put me an egg in here. So let's check on our sandwiches and see. Take a look at this, y'all. How beautiful is that? All right, now let's see, our egg is ready. So let's make this the Madame. And this is gonna be our Monsieur. Because he doesn't have an egg, he's totally flat. Aren't those beautiful looking? Now, if you really, really wanted to spiff up these sandwiches, you could make a wonderful bechamel or some kind of white sauce and just kind of ladle on top of that egg, like, or even a hollandaise sauce, you know, like Eggs Benedict. It would be yummy. All right, I think I'm gonna sample this one. And I wanna just cut into this egg and show y'all what it looks like. How delicious does that look? Oops. It fell in the butter. Mmm. This is absolutely out of this world. The homemade mayonnaise on it gives it such a wonderful, rich flavor. And the fact that you have so many layers of cheese, and then, of course, the surprise of the egg. But we've only just begun, y'all, because the next dish I'm gonna be doing is a fabulous French onion soup. So I'll see y'all back in a minute. Welcome back, y'all. Today is a French show. I'm reliving my visit to Paris, and it was fabulous. And I think there's one thing that Michael Groover and I both agree on, that onion soup is probably one of our favorites. And that's what I'm gonna be making today. Now, I'm taking about 8 onions, and I'm slicing them very thin. And I'm gonna add them to the pot, and about 1/4 or 1/3 of a cup of oil's already in that pot. And I'm gonna caramelize these onions down, which will take us about 20 minutes to do that. But you'll wanna cut your onions rather on the thin side, not have real thick pieces of onion. In fact, I've got a pot over here where I've already caramelized the onions, so we're ready to go with this soup. And you can see how these onions really cook down a lot. All right, now I'm gonna add 8 cups of a nice beef stock. Now this can be a homemade beef stock or it can be a canned. And to this pot now, I'm gonna add a couple of cloves of minced garlic. I'm gonna add a bay leaf. I'm gonna add about 1/2 teaspoon of dried thyme. And I'm gonna add 1/4 of a cup of white wine. A little fresh ground pepper. And a little salt. Now, you'll wanna be careful with your salt because if I made a homemade stock, it might not be as salty as like a canned stock. And this is where my French onion soup is a little different from most people's. I cooked some short ribs yesterday, and I've got some left over, so I'm gonna cut this up in small, small pieces. All right, and I'm gonna add this to our broth and our onions. You know, I've still got a few pieces of short rib in here with the bones, so I think I'm just gonna throw those down in the pot and just pull that extra flavor off those bones. And then we're gonna let that cook for about 20 minutes. In fact, I have a pot ready back here for us. So I'm gonna let that cook for about 20 minutes. But in the meantime, let's see what we've got here. Oh, look at the richness of that soup. All right, so our soup's ready to go. I've got a nice loaf of French bread over here, and I'm just gonna cut it. So I want this bread to kind of fit that bowl, so I'm gonna cut it diagonally so it'll take up more coverage on the top of the soup. And I'm just gonna butter this. And there's a couple of different ways you can do this. You can do this in the oven. You can do this earlier in the day and then just heat it right back up, or you can do it in a skillet the way I'm fixing to do it. And because of my love of butter, I'm gonna butter both sides of my bread. Now I have chosen for my soup today to cover my French bread with a Gruyere cheese, which I think is what most French cover their soup with. I'm not quite sure on that one, but I do know that over there they love Gruyere and they use a lot of it. But you could also use a stringy mozzarella that would be good. I'm just gonna flip these over, toast them real good on both sides. Now I'm gonna just reach in here and I'm not gonna take out the whole short ribs that were dropped in for the flavor and the richness. Now I'm just gonna float our piece of toast on top and I'm gonna cover it with a Gruyere cheese. Just like that. And I like lots of cheese. In fact, I like a little soup with my cheese toast. Now I'm gonna just transfer this now under the broiler. Here we go. And this is gonna take a steady hand for me to do this because I don't wanna slosh out my soup. Whoops, like I just did, y'all. All right, I'm just gonna slide that in and I'm gonna watch this very, very closely because I have my crock of soup up pretty high underneath the broiler and I don't want it to burn. But I promise you, when you come back in about 2 minutes, this soup is gonna be ready and we're gonna taste it and it's just gonna be sensational. And then guess what else? A chocolate banana crepe. No wonder Michael liked Paris. It was full of crepe. Welcome back, y'all. Today is all about French food. And I've got my French onion soup that's ready to come out of the oven. Look at that Gruyere cheese and that buttered French bread. This is gonna be so incredibly delicious. Look. It's so wonderful. But it could still stand to cool off just a little, so while that's cooling off, let's move on down here and get started with our crepes. Now the first thing we're gonna do is make our batter, because this batter actually has to sit about 20 minutes. And that's because we need it to flatten out and all the bubbles leave, but it's very, very simple to make. I've sifted 1 cup of all-purpose plain flour, and I'm gonna add 1 whole egg, and then I'm gonna add the yolk of a second egg. And then I'm going to slowly add some milk. And I'm going to add a little bit at the time because if you add a lot of liquid to a bowl of flour, there's a good chance it's going to lump on you, and I don't want this full of lumps. Now, I've got 1 tablespoon of butter melted back here that I'm going to add to our batter. All right, I'm gonna add about a half a teaspoon of vanilla flavoring to our batter, and we're gonna let that sit there for about 20 minutes. And I've already got some that's been mixed, and I'm using a regular omelet pan, and I've already sprayed it with a nonstick spray, and now I'm gonna add about 1/4 cup of batter to that. And I'm immediately going to roll that batter around in that pan to just get a thin coating all over the bottom. Okay. Now I think our crepe is ready to turn, and I'm gonna turn this crepe by using an offset spatula. All right, look how beautiful that crepe is. This was done without a crepe machine, and it takes about 60 seconds to get it to this brownness. Now, I may have had too much batter in that one, but I didn't want to shortchange this one because I shortchanged the last one by about a teaspoon, and that looks perfect right there. Now, I think while that's cooking, I think I'm going to start putting our crepe together. And I'm going to do that by putting a little chocolate hazelnut spread onto our crepe. Look at that. All right, now on top of our chocolate, I'm going to add a thin layer of banana slices. Doesn't that look yummy? All right, and I'm going to fold this up and then fold it again. So that's half. Oh, and I need a longer reach here. All right. Now I'm going to take a scoop of my chocolate and spread out onto the crepe. And I'm just going to put a thin slice of bananas. All right, fold in half and in half again. I think I'm going to try these while they're still kind of warm, and I'm going to put just a little dab. Well, your dab and my dab may be different, but I'm going to put a little dab of fresh sweetened whipped cream, and I'm going to dust it with powdered sugar. And then I think I'm going to swirl just a little bit of chocolate on top of that. Look at the banana peeking out of there. You know, that was better than Paris's. So I think we could all save ourselves a lot of money, stay home, and eat the best food you can get your hands on right in your own kitchen. What could be better after you eat a crepe? Maybe mayonnaise? I'm going to show you a way to make homemade mayonnaise in just a second, and it don't get no better than homemade mayonnaise. Well, maybe chocolate banana crepe. Y'all, you won't believe what I'm sitting here looking at. What I have is an old-timey mayonnaise maker, and it's made of glass. So I'm gonna quickly make a homemade mayonnaise, and mayonnaise is so easy to make. I'm just gonna separate the eggs, and I'm gonna start with 2 egg yolks. I'm gonna put in 2 tablespoons of Dijon mustard. I'm gonna give a squirt of lemon juice to those 2 ingredients. And I'm gonna put in a little fresh pepper, a little bit of salt, and I'm just gonna beat these until that starts to really get light and fluffy and frothy for me. Now, I'm gonna add some oil. You know, it's hard to make things like this strictly because we only have 2 hands. It would be nice to maybe come back as an octopus when we're doing things like this. I could get a lot of work knocked out. All right, and I'm gonna just keep on filling this with oil until I've used all of it, and we've got mayonnaise. Now, if you don't have an old mayonnaise maker, you can always do this in a food processor or a blender, and it'll work out completely wonderful. In fact, it might even be a little easier. All this food is so delicious that I prepared today, and it brings back so many wonderful memories for me that Michael and I shared in Paris. Oh, the crepes. I've never seen so many crepes in all my life. But I have to tell you, I think the banana and the hazelnut chocolate was just so much better than what I had in Paris. Don't mean to offend anybody, but they're just that yummy. And the French onion soup, you'll find if you'll put a little bone in there and a little beef, it will really kick up that French onion soup like you've never had before. And of course, they have really done something spectacular to an ordinary grilled ham and cheese sandwich. They have turned this sandwich into a croque madame that is so delicious. I hope that maybe one day y'all will get to Paris and see the sights, smell the smells, and taste the food. But if you can't get there, you can always try some of these recipes. I think you're gonna just love them. So until next time, y'all, I send you love and best dishes from my Paris kitchen to yours.